Hey folks, I'm Papa Boris back with another interlude video for the 2025 Through the Ages World Championship. I made it to stage 3, I'm super excited. In this video I'm going to do 3 things. 1, review the rules of the tournament. 2, take a look at who I'm playing against. I've made a very exciting discovery, so this time the scouting information will be a lot more useful than last time. And finally, we're going to take a trip down memory lane and see how my old friends from previous stages are doing. Now, if you're thinking, wait a minute, this is just a bunch of long, self-indulgent bullcrap, I can just look at all this information myself. Yes, that is absolutely true. I got the link for you in the description. Feel free to go to the tournament page and look at all this stuff yourself. And if you'd be so kind as to give a like and or a subscribe on your way out, I would appreciate it. But if you want to stick around, let's begin. So, one thing I didn't realize in my first 2 introductory or interlude videos for this tournament is that stage 1 is not a particularly competitive stage. Only 116 people out of the more than 1,100 playing in the tournament actually get eliminated in stage 1. So for the most part, the function of this stage is to separate people into an upper bracket and a lower bracket. I made it to the lower bracket. And to trim the numbers down to a nice 1,024, a perfect power of 2. So then we get to stage 2, which is where things start to get a little bit serious. In stage 2, if you're in the upper bracket, you have a little bit of wiggle room. You do need to win to stay in the upper bracket, but if you get 4th place, you're actually eliminated from the tournament. If you want to stay in the tournament in the lower bracket, you at least have to get 2nd or 3rd place. Now in the lower bracket, it's the end of the line. You win, you get to stay in the tournament, and if you lose, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, it's all the same, you're out of the tournament. In stage 3, the rules are actually the same. So the upper bracket and lower bracket function equally, except now, of course, the competition's a lot more serious. In the lower bracket, where I am, 75%, the bottom 75% of players have been cut off now. So you're still able to get a somewhat soft pocket and get somewhat good players, but not like crazy good. But it is now much less likely that you're not going to have, a sniper in the pod. And of course, that's only going to get more serious with time. As we'll see, I think I actually got pretty lucky with who my group is in the lower bracket, and it's still going to be really, really rough for me to do better than 4th at this stage. Okay, so I am in stage 3. Here was my stage 2 group. I did very, very well. This is a little bit misleading. Doesn't really mean I'm that good of a player. I think I got very lucky with my group. As we'll take a look at the end of this video, I could have definitely had some much stronger opponents in the lower bracket here. I do think I got pretty lucky with my 3 opponents, and they still played pretty well against me. One of these 2 first places should have been a 2nd. Pepe made a small mistake at the end, and also Spillis Willis made a really strange move that enabled me to get 1st. One of these first is a tie, and I self-sabotaged horribly, so that could have very easily been a loss, and I did lose head-to-head with Lord Michael the Great. So credit to him, he played a good game, and he beat me. So it was a good stage for me. I was very happy to perform this well, but it was also a little bit humbling at the same time. Okay, so now let's take a look at my opponents in stage 3. We've got Alexander, Gandhi, and Matil, I'm guessing. Previously, what I would do is I would look at their CGE account profile page, or in stage 2, I would look at their previous group. Since then, however, thanks to a comment on Weidenbaum's channel, he was kind enough to provide a link to the Glico ratings for Through the Ages. So thank you very much, Weidenbaum, for responding to the random person who asked about that, because now I know about it. And that is this spreadsheet here. So there is a spreadsheet. I don't know who maintains this. It's updated every 3 months. So the next time it'll be updated will be March of 2025. And I presume I'm going to be on here somewhere when that happens, which is fun. This is a rating system. Certain tournaments are included in these ratings, so if you participate in these tournaments, you get a rating. Now, how do the ratings work? Well, it's not ELO, it's Glico. If you're familiar with ratings, most likely ELO is the system you're familiar with. So if you play chess, that's ELO. If you're on Board Game Arena, that's ELO. Glico is an alternative to ELO. Now, I'm not an expert on it because I'm not a nerd, but basically, you have a rating just like you do in ELO. It's this estimated column G. And the higher the number, the better of a player you are. So here's Weidenbaum. You should definitely check out his channel. He's an incredible player and really, really useful to watch the videos of. It's just an amazing service that he does analysis of his games, because it's not often that in a game you have someone at this high of a caliber who will make tons and tons of videos. So just you know, I'm a little bit gushy, but my hat's off to him for the service that he does. But anyway, you can see he's here. He has a very high rating. He's a really good player. Now, what Glicko does that Elo, as far as I know, doesn't, is it also has a measure of confidence built into the algorithm. That's column I, the deviation. The smaller this is, the more confident the algorithm is that your estimated rating is your actual rating. And then on top of that, the algorithm also calculates a conservative rating. And this is what I'm actually going to be using because, well, that's how the players are ranked. They're ranked by their conservative rating, not by their estimated rating. So I'm going to go for that because I don't know what's going on. And if that's what the person who made the spreadsheet did, then that's what I'm going to do. The conservative rating is the estimated rating minus 3 times the standard deviation. So basically, this is a real not experts person understanding. The conservative rating is like the algorithm's way of saying, I am very, very, very sure that the player is not worse than this. So that's how we're going to be judging people. So we can look up our opponents using the magic of Control plus F and see if they're on here. Now, a lot of people in the tournament are not. It seems like more people are getting involved in Through the Ages competitive play, like I guess I am. But I got pretty lucky because all of my opponents are actually on here. Now, the toughest of my opponents is Oleksandr, whose conservative rating is 1488. And that's, you know, by my standards, pretty high. I'll talk a little bit about what I think my rating might be a little bit later, but suffice it to say, this is most likely significantly stronger than what I am. But at the same time, I think I'm a little lucky that in stage 3 of the lower bracket, this is as high as it gets. Because there are definitely higher rated people here. One of my friends is in a pod where 2 of his 3 opponents are in the 1500s. So the fact that I have nobody above a 1500 is, I think, a little bit fortunate. Next up is Gandhi. Now, Gandhi was actually in stage 1 with my friend Dan, and he won that stage. Gandhi went to the upper bracket and then fell back down into the lower bracket after stage 2. So did Oleksandr. In fact, all 3 of my opponents came from the upper bracket. Now, he's a 1448, so a little bit lower. And then Matil, I'm guessing, at least by rating, is the weakest player in the group. He's a 1327. So these are my opponents. They are pretty strong. And for comparison, if you look at my previous stage, Spillis Willis and Lord Michael aren't in here. Actually, it's funny. There actually is a person named Lord Michael, but that's not who was in stage 2 with me. It was Lord Michael the Great, and he's not on here. So we don't have the ratings, but arguably the best player of the group was Pepe. And you can see Pepe is all the way down here at 1280. So that was the strongest player in the group other than me. And I do think I got pretty fortunate because there were definitely stronger players bumping around in the lower bracket, even in stage 2. Okay, so that concludes the scouting. Let's go on a trip down memory lane. How are my opponents from previous stages doing? Well, anyone from stage 2 and later, if I'm still in the tournament, they are out of the tournament because they lost, they didn't win the group. But we can take a look at our old friends Sheeter, Sakic, and Gangwon from stage 1. Sheeter, if you'll recall, was tied with me for last place in our group when we had our head-to-head game, and I beat him in it. And then I ended up saying, well, that didn't really matter because both of us ended up staying in the tournament. He had scored enough points to not be one of the 116 fourth placers to be eliminated. But I wonder now if it actually did matter because he was up against Rainior here in stage 2. And this was a very strong player. I mean, he dominated the group. He got all wins except for one tie, one of these 4-player games. Sheeter actually tied with him. So Sheeter held his own and did pretty well, but this was a really, really strong player. We might ask, how strong is he? And that is actually a little bit tricky to answer because Rainior isn't in the ratings. However, in stage 1, he did very, very close in performance to someone named Bolton, who is a 1633. So Sheeter was up there battling it out with someone who might be in the 1600s of difficulty, like over 100 points higher ranked than anybody in my group right now in stage 3. That's who Sheeter had to contend with in stage 2. So it's quite possible that my game against Sheeter really did matter because maybe if I had lost that game, I would have been where Sheeter was. I would have had this Rainior guy and I would have gotten trumped. I would have gotten chumped. Chumped, also not a verb. I would have gotten beat up and lost, and then I wouldn't be here fighting and getting some more tournament experience in stage 3. Okay, so that's Sheeter's story. Next up, we'll take a look at Gangwon Teacher. Gangwon Teacher got second place in our group, despite the fact that he won all 3 two-player games, including the game against the eventual winner, Sakic. And Gangwon, to this time, has still not lost a two-player game in this tournament. His performance in the upper bracket was actually really interesting because it shows the importance of the three-player games. Gangwon won all the two-player games. He outperformed the top player head-to-head in the four-player games, first versus second, third versus fourth, but because he didn't do well in the three-player games and Axel Klar won all three-player games, Axel Klar beat him, and not only did he beat him, but he could have actually lost another two-player game and gone 1 for 2 in the two-player games and still made it ahead of Gangwon. So this puts Gangwon in the lower bracket, so yeah, that's the kind of person that we can have chumming around here in the lower bracket with us. In fact, let's go ahead and take a look at Gangwon over here. So it's kind of funny, I'm a little bit embarrassed that I was just like casually commenting on my opponents and making judgments of their plays when they were pretty good back in stage 1. He's a 15-24, so he might be stronger than anybody that I'm playing with now in stage 3. He hasn't played that many games, which is interesting because he had over 2,000 games played in the app, but not very many tournament games, so it seems like he only recently decided to start dipping his toes into the tournament lifestyle. Okay, last up, let's take a look at the winner of my group in stage 1, Sakic. Sakic, I do believe, was the strongest person in our group, so I'm very, very proud that I managed to take one game off of him. He did win the other 4-player game that I didn't win. He beat me in both 3-player games, and he also beat me pretty soundly in our 2-player game. And I'm not too surprised after seeing what happened in Upper 119. Sakic doesn't have very many games in the app, so he's new to the app and new to the tournament lifestyle, so he doesn't have a rating yet. But here, it was pretty clear that he and this other person, Scipio, were both significantly better than the other 2 players in the group. They had really similar records. Sakic edged him out a little bit, actually, in the 4-player games. They did equally as well in the 3-player games, but then in their head-to-head, Scipio beat Sakic, and that was what decided the group. So I've actually never seen this. Sakic didn't win the group with 29 points. I've never seen anyone get this many points in all the groups I've casually looked at and not win. So by the rules of the tournament, he actually should be in the lower bracket, but he's in the upper bracket in stage 3. I'm actually not sure what's going on with that. I mean, it probably has something to do with the fact that he got a ludicrously high number of points. But in any case, I'm really happy for him, and I hope that he keeps on doing well in the upper bracket. Now, this raises the question, do we know how good Scipio is? And the answer is yes, we do. So Scipio is in the ratings, and he is up there. He's 120 in the rankings by conservative, and his conservative Glico is a 1690. And Sakic went basically toe-to-toe with him. So yeah, Sakic is a really strong player, whereas Gangwon's in like the low 1500s. Sakic was actually in there tussling with us in stage 1 in the mid to high 1600s level of power, probably. So I really kind of cringe when I think about the first videos I made in stage 1 of this tournament, not really having any idea how good I was or how good my opponents were, because if I could go back and change my commentary, I definitely would. But hopefully we'll learn from our mistakes. In stage 3, facing opponents mostly in the 1400s, I will be a lot more cautious in my estimation of their moves. And that's actually the thing that I want to talk about last here. How good am I? Well, Sheeter is actually in the list. So he, who I think is a little bit worse than me, or at least performed worse in stage 1, is a 1347. Now, if he's worse than me, it's only by a little bit, because while I beat him in both 4-player games, he did beat me in both 3-player games, and I beat him in our one-on-one, I would say pretty comfortably. But still, you know, one-on-one games, they could go whichever way. It's very possible I could have lost to him. So I'm guessing my strength is in the mid to high 1300s. That's just my guess. So I am kind of the underdog in my group, where there's 2 opponents in the 1400s and 1 in the low 1300s. But that's what I currently think I am. So I've got it kind of an uphill battle here. If anything, if everything goes according to plan, I do think our 4-player games are probably going to be done in about a week. So hopefully, in a week to a half or 2 weeks, I'll have the analysis of the 4-player games from stage 3. I'm really, really excited to share those with you. Those are turning out to be pretty fun games so far. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Wish me luck, and I'll see you again soon with some more Through the Ages. Take care.